Okay, thank you. Now, Rog, there's been a number of questions around mining service companies and engineering companies, and in particular, Forge has been in the news a bit of late.
Well, it's suspended at the
Exactly.
moment.
So people would like to know how you go about looking at those companies, and in particular, I guess, if you have any comments on Forge. Obviously, you don't know any more than
we
the
don't
rest
know
of the
anything. The
market,
company won't speak to us at the moment because they're suspended. However, what we'll do is we'll pull up Forge. This is very important. Okay, so notice that Forge is trading at a discount to its intrinsic value. But which way is that intrinsic value going in the future? It's declining. Even though it's cheap, or it appears to be cheap, the intrinsic value needs to be going up. Now, when we sold our Forge shares the first time, back in April 2012, we wrote a post on the blog and we said we think mining services prospects are deteriorating. Why was that? Because that forecast intrinsic value line was no longer rising. It had started to flatten out. And when it starts to flatten out, you've got to keep an eye on that. It's worth watching how that changes over time. And if you're really interested in a stock, go on to Skaffold at least once a week and record what the intrinsic values are and plot whether or not they're rising or declining. Now, I know the team are working on the development pipeline where you'll be able to see where that was back in time and you'll be able to see how that's changed. But for the time being, just record where it is and then next week have a look again and see if it's gone up or down. Because what that's telling you is that the analyst community is now downgrading their expectations. The outlook is getting bleaker. And what we know about analysts is that they're collectively slow to catch up. They're slow to actually admit that they were wrong, and they're slow to actually then say, no, we said buy before. They're not going to go from buy to sell. They'll go from buy to hold, to downgrade some more, to not watching it anymore. Something like that. I'm being facetious, of course, but they won't just switch from sell to buy to sell again. That's too bipolar. They'll take their time. We can afford to be much more nimble than that. So we should be watching whether or not those intrinsic values are rising or declining. So look, the simple reason was every analyst in Australia was bullish on all the mining services companies, even McMahon Holding, which is one of the most capital intensive of the mining services companies. The analysts had bullish forecasts for all of them. So we thought, well, if everybody is now bullish on these things, every analyst in Australia, and only a year earlier there weren't mining services analysts around, now every broker had one, and they were all bullish on all of the stocks, even the most capital intensive, and it looked as though the valuations were flattening out and no longer rising. To us, that was a rule our internal system said that we should be selling.
Thanks, Rob.